Have you ever had that subtle, haunting sense that something is shifting beneath the surface of your life? Something you can't quite name, but can't ignore either. That quiet tug in your chest, the feeling that everything you once accepted as normal suddenly seems like an illusion. This is not confusion, it's initiation. A lot of people talk about spirituality, but few truly understand what it means to awaken. If you're on the path of a spiritual awakening, chances are you're already deep in the second stage, where everything familiar starts to unravel. You might feel a strange restlessness inside, like a silent force is trying to rise from within. At this point, questioning everything that once felt safe or comfortable is not a sign of failure, it's a call. And that call, while disorienting, often leads to the deepest transformation. Understanding the 3 core stages of spiritual awakening can become your map through the unknown, because the awakening doesn't arrive with clear signs or flashing lights. Most of the time, it begins as a quiet discontent, a sense that there's something more, just beyond the veil of ordinary life. Spiritual awakening isn't about adding a meditation app to your routine or reading a few self-help books. Over time, you begin to realize it's something much deeper, a radical inner shift in how you see yourself and the world. Many start to feel disillusioned with surface-level living, or with goals society told us we should want. That's why learning to recognize the phases of awakening isn't just helpful, it's essential. Each stage brings challenges and breakthroughs that shape your inner evolution. And when you realize you're not alone in this journey, that others are waking up too, it changes everything. When we begin to explore the roots of a spiritual awakening, we often discover it's not something that happens by accident. In truth, it's the culmination of years, sometimes decades, of subtle inner tension, emotional upheavals, unresolved questions, and moments of soul-level discomfort. You may have faced a deep emotional crisis, experienced a profound loss, or simply felt an increasing disillusionment with the roles and rhythms of everyday life. Whatever the spark, what matters most is that you're here, ready to peel back the surface and encounter more of yourself than you ever thought possible. In the early stages, you might begin confronting parts of your psyche that have long been buried, old wounds, forgotten dreams, suppressed truths. This part of the journey demands a quiet kind of courage, the willingness to turn inward, acknowledge your dissatisfaction, and sit with questions that have no immediate answers. It's a sacred threshold, not a breakdown, but a breakthrough. The more you resist it, the more it persists. But when you begin to allow the experience, without judgment, you open space for true transformation. This path often begins alone, but it doesn't have to remain that way. At first, it may feel like no one around you understands the shift you're going through. But as you move forward, you begin to notice a quiet truth. Others are awakening too. And in that realization, isolation becomes connection. This early stage of spiritual awakening often begins with disillusionment, the unraveling of what you once believed to be reality. You might feel a deep, aching emptiness where fulfillment used to be, a persistent whisper that there must be more. That emptiness isn't a failure, it's a portal. It calls you to question the truths you were handed and to carve new meaning from within. Many people in this stage begin to feel an increasing disconnect from conventional ideals, social expectations, and the lives they built to please others. The job, the roles, the routines, they start to lose their hold, and even though that loss can feel jarring, even heartbreaking, it's also proof that something new is trying to emerge. This discontent may lead to tension with friends or family who don't share your new perspective. You may feel like a stranger in your own life. But know this, that loneliness is not permanent. It's a sign that your inner reality is shifting faster than the outer world can keep up with. You're shedding layers that no longer fit, making room for something more authentic to rise. At this point in your awakening, it's common to be flooded with existential questions. Why am I here? What is the real meaning behind all of this? These questions can feel heavy, even disorienting at first. But they are sacred. They crack open doors to dimensions within you that would have remained sealed without this inner unraveling. What feels like uncertainty is actually the beginning of deeper clarity. This is a time to slow down and lean into moments of solitude, whether it's through journaling, meditation, or simply sitting in stillness. These practices become portals to your inner landscape. They help you hear your thoughts without the noise of the world, guiding you back to your own voice, your own knowing. The more you cultivate that connection, the more you realize that this discomfort isn't chaos, it's realignment. When disillusionment shows up, it often feels like you're losing something essential, perhaps even your old identity. But in truth, you're exactly where you need to be. The unraveling is not a mistake. It's preparation for the most transformative part of your awakening. What follows is an inner ignition, heightened emotions, sharper intuition, and the emergence of truths you never dared to explore. In the second stage of spiritual awakening, your senses begin to expand in unexpected ways. You might find beauty in things you once overlooked, or begin to sense emotional subtleties in others that you never noticed before. It's as if life shifts into high definition. Your inner guidance, the quiet voice of intuition, grows louder, clearer, more insistent. Decisions that once felt impossible begin to crystallize. There's a knowing that cuts through logic and speaks directly to the soul. Learning to trust that voice becomes essential. Even when it contradicts what's rational, your intuition knows where you're headed. It's not about predicting the future. It's about sensing the truth of a moment and moving from that place. As you listen, that inner compass strengthens, pointing you toward alignment and away from self-betrayal. But this stage also brings you face to face with your shadow, the parts of yourself you've hidden, denied, or disowned. The shadow isn't evil. It's not broken. It's just unseen. It holds your pain, your fears, and yes, even your buried brilliance. Anger, envy, shame, deep-rooted fear. These aren't flaws. They're fragments of your wholeness, waiting to be integrated. To confront your shadow is to walk through the fire of your own story. Not to be consumed by it, but to reclaim the pieces you left behind when you thought you had to be acceptable. It's not easy, but nothing awakens the soul like finally facing the truth of who you are. These denied parts of ourselves don't disappear. They simply retreat into the unconscious. And from there, they silently shape our choices, our relationships, and the patterns we repeat without realizing. When we talk about confronting the shadow, it's not just about noticing uncomfortable emotions on the surface. It's about fully embracing them as real, valid parts of who you are. Imagine someone raised to believe that showing vulnerability is a sign of weakness. In the process of awakening, they may have to admit that a deep fear of being emotionally open is keeping them from forming meaningful relationships. But when that fear is acknowledged, not rejected, and vulnerability is welcomed as an authentic part of the self, emotional energy is no longer trapped. It's released, and with that release comes growth. One of the clearest ways to spot your shadow is through emotional overreactions to seemingly small triggers. When something minor evokes a strong emotional charge, it's often a sign that something deeper has been activated. Maybe a passing critique sends you spiraling into anger or despair. That could point to an unhealed belief that you're not enough. Awareness here is a gift. It offers a chance to go inward and rewire the story. Meeting the shadow means remembering. These parts of you are not enemies. They are unclaimed power. When you acknowledge and integrate them, you unlock hidden reserves of creativity, emotional strength, and confidence. What once felt like heaviness becomes insight. Your pain becomes your teacher. The once scattered pieces of your inner world start to unify, making you feel more whole, more real. This work isn't easy, so approach it with compassion and patience. Don't judge what you uncover, or shame yourself for having it. Every human carries a shadow. The goal isn't to eliminate it, it's to understand it and bring it into conscious partnership with your light. In doing so, you gain emotional freedom, and with that, the ability to move through life with clarity, groundedness, and authenticity. Shadow work is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also sacred. It's how we dissolve the outdated programming that's held us back for so long. And you don't have to do it alone. In fact, it's encouraged to seek out tools that support your path. Holistic therapy, therapeutic journaling, group circles, and spiritual communities can hold space for your healing. These resources can help you move through heavy emotions safely and transform them into the very soil from which your truest self can grow. As you begin integrating these inner discoveries and uncovering the patterns that have shaped your past, something subtle but undeniable begins to shift. Your entire worldview starts to loosen from its old anchors. The limiting beliefs you once took as absolute truths begin to lose their grip. You start to see them not as facts, but as inherited constructs, passed down by culture, family, and environment. This realization creates space, room for something more authentic to emerge. Your perspective expands, and your perception of reality undergoes a profound inner transformation. This shift in awareness, though often uncomfortable at first, marks the beginning of a new foundation. You no longer accept life at face value. Instead, you start building a deeper, more aligned existence, one that feels meaningful, resonant, and deeply personal. But this is only the beginning, because with this widening perception comes a deeper unfolding, an inner opening that prepares you for the next phase of awakening. In the third stage of spiritual awakening, something truly alchemical begins to happen. This isn't just a shift in how you think, it's a revolution in how you experience life itself. A deeper connection with the world around you starts to reveal itself, not because anything outside has changed, but because you've changed. What once felt ordinary now pulses with unseen meaning. A moment, a glance, a breath. Everything seems to hum with a quiet, sacred significance. You begin to feel more connected to yourself, to others, to all things. The illusion of separation starts to dissolve. You realize that you were never truly isolated, only distracted. Empathy deepens, judgment fades. You start to meet people, not with assumptions, but with presence, with genuine curiosity and care. Compassion becomes your natural state, not because you're trying to be better, but because you finally come home to something real. Alongside this connection comes clarity. What once felt like a vague longing becomes a defined sense of purpose. You begin to move with direction, not out of fear or ambition, but from an inner sense of truth. For some, this means leaving behind careers or lifestyles that no longer fit. For others, it means stepping into service, creating, healing, or simply showing up more fully. The path becomes less about finding meaning and more about expressing it. You begin to see reality itself differently, not as fixed, but as fluid, alive, and shaped by your awareness. You realize that perception isn't passive, it's creative. The way you see things directly impacts the way you experience them. And that realization doesn't just change your perspective, it changes your life. This new awareness, that reality is deeply shaped by the lens of our perception, brings with it a profound sense of freedom and personal responsibility. You no longer feel like a victim of circumstance. Instead, you begin to actively participate in the shaping of your experience. Every challenge, every obstacle, no longer appears as a problem to be solved, but as a portal, a meaningful invitation to grow, expand, and deepen your understanding of who you are. And yet, even with this clarity, something within you knows this isn't the end. This awakening, as powerful as it feels, is only scratching the surface. You begin to realize that spiritual awakening is not a destination to reach, but a continuous unfolding, an ever-deepening journey into self-awareness and connection. The true gift of this path lies not in arriving somewhere new, but in how it constantly reintroduces you to yourself, One of the great secrets of awakening is that it never really ends. There is no beginning, middle, and final chapter. It doesn't follow the clean arc we're used to with goals or achievements. At first, that idea may feel disorienting, especially if you're someone who likes to see progress in linear steps. But over time, you begin to appreciate this infinite unfolding. It becomes clear that what makes awakening so powerful is precisely this. It keeps revealing more. From this perspective, even your struggles take on new meaning. You stop assuming that discomfort means something is wrong. You start to see it as a teacher. Many believe that once you've awakened, everything should be peaceful, clear, and effortless. But in truth, the path remains wild, unpredictable, and deeply human. Doubt still arises, pain still shows up, but now, instead of resisting it, you meet it. You reflect, you listen, you grow. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for deep refinement. And with this mindset, even your lowest moments serve a sacred purpose. Practices like regular journaling or meditation don't just support your healing. They help you integrate the lessons faster and anchor new levels of awareness. Through them, you become more emotionally resilient, more spiritually attuned, and better equipped to meet whatever life brings with courage and grace. It's important to remember, this journey is deeply personal. No two awakenings are the same. What resonates for one person may not align for another, and that's exactly how it should be. So stay open, explore different paths and practices, but trust your own intuition above all. Let it be your compass. As time passes, you'll begin to see real, tangible shifts. Your life feels more meaningful, your relationships more authentic, and your choices are guided by clarity instead of fear. True spirituality is lived, not just learned. Awakening takes root in the everyday. When we bring conscious presence into ordinary moments, it's not about escaping the world, but transforming how we meet it. From big decisions to daily interactions, every situation becomes a mirror, a lesson, a doorway into deeper understanding. A family argument, a work conflict, these are no longer just frustrations. They become invitations to observe, to pause, to respond from awareness, rather than reaction. And in doing so, we model maturity, we foster healing, we strengthen our emotional intelligence and our spiritual resilience. Even in our careers, we begin making choices, not just for money or status, but for meaning, for alignment with our deeper values. It's not about rejecting success. It's about redefining it. Maybe you feel called to create something new, something that serves others, something that lights you up from within. You stop fearing discomfort because you've learned. These are the moments that refine you. Conflict becomes training. Setbacks become spiritual workouts. Every day becomes a chance to grow your capacity for presence, compassion, and courage. And the peace that comes from living this way, from surrendering to the unfolding, is priceless. It's not a prize at the end. It's the essence of walking this path. Because awakening isn't a finish line. It's an evolution. There are always new layers of awareness, new truths to uncover, and new versions of yourself to meet. The further you walk, the deeper it all becomes, and with that depth comes a readiness for higher levels of self-realization and self-leadership. Thank you for being here, for choosing to explore this with me. If this video spoke to you, I invite you to like and subscribe to the channel, share it with someone you care about, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, reflections, or stories. Until next time, take care of yourself. I'll see you soon.